At the base of almost every food chain are plants. Scientists call plants primary producers because they produce their own food. Grocery shoppers call plants produce. Plants make their own food from inorganic substances by a process known as photosynthesis. All animals must eat plants or eat something that ate plants. Even if all you ever ate were burgers, what do cattle eat before becoming burgers? Plants are then the primary food source for almost all life on Earth, including marine life. All plants, whether they live on the land or in the ocean, have the same four basic requirements for growth. They need the same things. Some of these things are easier for plants that live in the ocean to get. Others pose a special problem for marine plants. In photosynthesis, plants utilize the energy from the sun to combine carbon dioxide, a waste product we animals exhale, with water to make their own food, which is sugar. They also give off a waste product, O2, which is oxygen, which is great for us animals because oxygen is what we need to breathe in. So for photosynthesis to occur, all plants need carbon dioxide, water, and sunlight. Water is an easy one. They're living in water. They'll never be short of water. Carbon dioxide is also not a problem. There's more CO2 dissolved in the water than there is in the air. Plants in the water will never be short CO2. The first major problem marine plants have is getting enough sunlight to provide the energy for photosynthesis to occur. They can't make sugar and oxygen without ample sunlight. Much of the light that strikes the oceans is reflected off the surface and doesn't penetrate the water. The light that penetrates the water gets absorbed. The deeper you go into Puget Sound, the darker it gets. Soon it becomes too dark for photosynthesis. In order for plants to grow in the oceans, they have to live near the surface where light is available. This surface layer, where enough light is available for plants to grow, is the photic zone. Time of year is also a big factor. During winter, the days are short and there are not enough daylight hours for plants to grow well. Along with days being short in the winter, the sun is low on the horizon, which increases the amount of light reflected off the surface. This leaves even less light available for marine plants in the winter. The fourth thing plants need to grow well are nutrients, also known as fertilizers. Plants can't live on sugar alone. If plants were made of just sugar, Brussels sprouts would taste like candy. Plants combine the sugars they make with chemicals like nitrogen to make proteins and phosphorus to make fats. Let's look at where natural fertilizers come from. When plants die, decomposers, bacteria, and fungi break the plants down into what we call compost, which are full of fertilizers or nutrients. Waste products from animals are broken down by decomposers into manure, another source of nutrients. The bodies of animals that die are broken down by decomposers into nutrients. Let's look at decomposition in the marine environment and see why availability of nutrients can be a problem. Before we talk about decomposition, let's look at what plants are in the marine environment. The plants which come to mind first in the sea are seaweeds. These are large algae which we see on the beaches and near shore. They are big and visible and quite important to many marine organisms, but they are not the main producers. Seaweeds are limited to growing in the shallow sunlit waters along shore where they can attach to the bottom. The bulk of the photosynthesis that goes on in the oceans are done by tiny single-celled microscopic drifting plants known as phytoplankton. Phyto means plant and plankton means drifters. Because plankton can drift, they aren't limited to the shallows near shore. They can grow in the sunlit photic zone all over. Phytoplankton come in a huge variety of shapes. Some at first glance look like they are multicellular because they grow linked together in chains. These chains are still considered single-celled organisms because if you break the chain into individual cells, each cell will continue to grow and form a new chain. Compare that to a land plant. If you pick a leaf off a land plant, the leaf then dies. Some phytoplankton can even swim weakly. Dinoflagellates have a tail-like structure called a flagellum. They beat to propel themselves through the water. Plants that swim? Swimming is something we usually think of as something an animal would do. The reason we consider these swimming dinoflagellates phytoplankton is because they can photosynthesize. There are also plankton which are animals. They are known as zooplankton. These are drifters that can't make their own food. They get their energy by consuming other organisms like phytoplankton or other zooplankton that ate phytoplankton. The word plankton refers to living organisms that drift. It can be microscopic drifting plants, bacteria, small drifting animals, even huge drifting jellyfish. The only requirement for being a plankton are that you live in the water and that you're a drifter, a wimpy swimmer at best. Marine plants, seaweed or phytoplankton, need to live near the surface in the sunlit photic zone. Most of the decomposition of dead plants, waste products, or dead animals occurs down near the bottom, away from the sunlight plants need to grow. Gravity makes life tough for marine plants. Most creatures die by being eaten. They are then packaged into what scientists call fecal pellets, or poop. Poop sinks. These fecal pellets, which are rich in nutrients, are soon on the bottom. This is where decomposers work on them, breaking them down and releasing their nutrients into the bottom waters, away from the sunlit surface. When fresh water flows into salt water, the two don't mix right away. Because fresh water is less dense, lighter than salt water, it tends to float on the top. So this means there are two layers of water in Puget Sound. A deep layer of ocean water from the Pacific, and, thanks to the 10,000 rivers and streams flowing into Puget Sound, a shallow layer of less salty water. If this were the whole story, plants would barely be able to grow in Puget Sound. The water would be clear like tropical waters. The two water layers would remain separated by their different densities. This would keep nutrients locked in the dark bottom waters away from the plants living in the sunlit surface waters. However, this isn't the whole story. Puget Sound has large tidal exchanges. On an average, the level of Puget Sound rises and falls 10 feet twice a day, 2 high tides and 2 low tides. The water that fills the sound when the tide comes in flows in from the Pacific Ocean. The strong tidal currents race along the bottom of the Strait of Juan de Fuca till they run into a problem. Remember that sill left by the glaciers? When the waters crash into the sill, it ends up being pushed up and over the sill. This flow of water from down deep to up near the surface is known as an upwelling. These upwellings bring with them the nutrients the phytoplankton need to grow. They mix nutrient-rich bottom water with the lower salinity surface water, which then hold nutrients near the surface where they are available to the plants. The same process occurs as the tides flow out of Puget Sound. Nutrient-rich bottom water flows along the bottom of Puget Sound till it hits the sill. It's then pushed up and mixed with surface water. So in Puget Sound, plants have no problem getting nutrients. The thing that limits plant growth in Puget Sound is the availability of sunlight.